Technology is culture. When it comes to exploring how technology is culture, the birth of the personal computer is a great example. So let's time travel back to the 60s. Looking at these hippies, you might wonder, what do these hippies have in common with Silicon Valley venture capitalists? How would a rock band influence the tech revolution that brought us the personal computer? Well, for starters, it both happened at the same time. On December 9th, 1968, the mother of all demos took place. Doug Engelbart and his team showcased for the very first time the personal computer, including graphical user interface, the computer mouse, and word processing. It was a true game-changing moment from computer history. What else happened at that time? California was knee-deep immersed in the flower power movement. The Summer of Love had attracted over 100,000 people from all over the world to San Francisco and California. What many people don't know is that some of the drivers of the personal computer were themselves actively involved in counterculture, that they were hippies themselves. Steve Jobs is a prominent example, of course, but there's also Doug Engelbart. He was such a pioneer for the personal computer. What you might not guess, looking at him sitting there with his suit and tie, is that he was also involved in psychedelic drugs. He took part in several academic research experiments exploring how LSD is influencing the brain. Other participants to these experiments included people from all walks of life, scientists, hippies, but also business people. Some of the very early employees of Cisco took part in these experiments too. So let's explore a bit further this close interdependency between counterculture and technology. Let's talk about the merry pranksters. Very iconic representatives of the 60s. They were a crazy group of people advocating the use of psychedelic drugs, living in communes, and so forth. There were living up to 16 people on that bus. No sanitary installations, probably. I get claustrophobic only thinking about it. Anyway, the merry pranksters were organizing a huge party series called the Acid Tests. Many of the drivers of the tech revolution were participating in these parties. I guess you could compare it somehow to Burning Man Festival these days, happening in the desert of Nevada, with very prominent representatives of the Silicon Valley taking part. Apart from their convening power, this Acid Test party series was super interesting from a tech point of view because they had the first sophisticated light shows and mark important milestone for entertainment technology. The house band of the Acid Tests were the Grateful Dead, this hugely popular psychedelic rock band. And here comes another striking link between counterculture, music, and technology. One of the lyricists of the Grateful Dead was John Perry Barlow. He happens to be one of the founders of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, advocating very prominently the rights in cyberspace, alongside people like Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, and so forth. Barlow also sat on the board of directors of Well, one of the very first virtual communities still operating. There are many more examples like this, and I could go on forever, but time is ticking, and I think you get the gist. The counterculture of the 60s was very important with its values of openness, transparency, flat hierarchies, distributed networks, and personal empowerment. It's the counterculture that really made the computer personal. And not just another mainframe computer in a large corporation. I was thrilled to read a few weeks ago in one of Switzerland's major newspapers that the president of the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich also acknowledges that influence of culture on technology. Mr. Gutzella stated that the flower power movement to him is the foundation of Silicon Valley, that it contributed hugely to the much-needed openness and readiness to take risks. I love to read that quote because today, still many more traditional leaders or executives might argue that hard factors such as science and seed money are solely relevant for entrepreneurial and innovation success, that soft factors such as crazy nightlife, innovative arts, and mindfulness are completely neglectable. But this is not the case. The association between culture and technology is hugely powerful. Technology is culture. Culture provides important weak signals about trends. Culture is a precursor of important shifts in society, on markets. Culture raises questions, provides discussions, purpose, meaning. Now you might say, okay, you convinced me that there's some value in embracing the counterculture in our innovation processes. So who are the hippies of our decade? Where can I find them? We'll come to this question in a few seconds. Technology is culture, so if we agree that this association is so powerful, we should promote it and fund it properly, right? Is this the case today? Unfortunately, not really. Your project is either culture or tech or business. And a lot of interesting projects happening at the intersection, like in the creative industries and so forth, just fell through any support mechanisms. So we decided to do something about it. We created Alliance Digitale to lobby for the new 4-year cultural policy. We wanted to make digital a cornerstone of that and its budget. So we created Alliance Digitale. It represents some of Switzerland's most active organizations in digital culture. Time was ticking to influence this new policy, so we wrote a manifesto about promoting and funding digital culture. We put it online, we collected some signatures, and forwarded it to our head of government. We were super happy to see that our support activities were not in vain. A few weeks ago, the Swiss Parliament officially validated the new cultural policy. The Swiss government is now acknowledging digital culture as driver and R&D lab for innovation. Because yes, culture is a R&D lab for innovation. As I said before, it provides hugely important innovation inspiration. It really drives progress. So now, I really feel you want to ask the question, so who are the hippies of today? Hackers and makers, open data activists, surely are part of today's hippies. Tech-savvy and passionate people with curious, critical minds, always pushing boundaries. Makers who are reinventing products from scratch and financing them independently on crowdfunding platforms, for example, the drivers of the do-it-yourself movement. How to interact with them? A format that works very well, and a lot of organizations and governments are already doing, are so-called hackathons, are makeathons, where organizations reach out to the community, they pose a cool challenge, and they say, hey, here's something, for example, interesting data. Do something with it. Hack it, break it, shoot your ideas. And if the deal is right and the interaction offered valuable for both sides, then I'm sure you'll very likely get some super interesting people join your quest to innovate. And we all need help to innovate. Because we're again at a very interesting crossroad of technology, with virtual reality completely reinventing the way stories are told in games and cinema. But beyond that, it's a new formal language being invented. Here in the Lake Geneva region, we have so interesting startups in that field, offering spatial storytelling, neurogaming, applications you can control with your mind, and soon there will be projections of movies directly on your retina. It is tremendously important now that back in the 60s, creative artists joined those technically brilliant people to create stories, content for these new technologies, to go beyond just pure cool gadgets. It's really all about the dialogue between culture and technology, but also all other disciplines. So important for innovation. So I'd recommend send your business development people to an interactive art exhibition. Take your programmers and invite them to an immersive theater experience. Go and try out these new virtual reality installations. It's the LSD of our decade. If you have a free desk at your office, rent it out to someone you wouldn't normally talk to, an artist or someone else. Hire a science fiction author to be your chief futurist, even if it's just for one day. I'm sure it will inspire you. Thank you so much.